This ever happened to you? You're in control up 10-8 in the game. Next thing you know, gets out of control. A couple minutes later, you're losing 12-10. In this video, I'm going to show you 2 ways to avoid it. The game we're breaking down is a pro level match at Major League Pickleball between the Carolina Hogs men's team against the men's team from the Utah Black Diamonds. Specifically, we have Ben Johns here with his brother Collin Johns. They still play together in Major League Pickleball against Tyler Loong and Connor Garnett over here. We're going to join the action now at 10-8-1 with Collin serving to Tyler. And what we're going to see here is traditional John strategy here, and then a trigger pull there by Collin, which is unusual, and we're going to talk about it more in depth in a second. And then we're going to see the next rally here at 10-8-2 is also going to be unsuccessful by the Johns brothers. And again, we're going to come back to it to study why exactly, how do we avoid that situation? Because what's happened now is they've conceded control over to Tyler and Connor, serving at 8-10-1. What we're going to see here is Tyler and Connor are going to do a really good job here of dinking and grinding and just playing a very patient game, and they're ultimately going to get an error from Ben on the backhand dink. But what I want to focus on in this lesson is, what do you do when you're the team who has 10, right? How do you not put yourself in this situation where you've given up control because you can't score the finishing point now, and you're giving it over to the other team? How do we avoid that? And to give you some context, in Major League Pickleball, it's 1 game to 11. So this is match. So now Ben and Collin no longer have control of the match. It's in the hands of Connor and Tyler. Now Ben takes half of their chance away, right? Half a side out there by hitting that shot. But now we're going to see Tyler and Connor really lock in. And what we're going to see here is we're going to see some crashes, some shake and bakes here in the middle. This I formation that the pros are using more and more. You see Connor come in, overpowers Ben with that attack. We're going to see the same thing the next 2 times. And so this kind of strategy, right, is a developing strategy at the pro level. It's becoming more prevalent, and that's what we get to figure out by studying pro matches just like this. If you have a chance to check out MLP live, you can see all the fans in the stands there checking out the action. Definitely try and do that. I'll put a link down below where you can get tickets to the next Major League Pickleball event. So now we have 11-10-2, and we're going to see basically the same exact thing again. You're going to see a drive by Tyler. You're going to see Connor come in, a couple of netters there. But that's how the rally, the game is controlled then by Tyler and Connor. They're able to come back from an 8-10 down to a 12-10 victory. So what can we do if we're the Johns brothers and we're up 10-8 to avoid this result? So now we know the result. We're going to go back to 10-8-1. So we have Collin serving. He just served over here to Tyler. And what we're going to look at here is we're going to look at one of the areas that we want to focus on, an error that we want to try and avoid when we're in control up 10-8. So I'm going to run it for you here. We're going to run it in slow motion so we can take a look at it. The beginning of this rally is perfect. In other words, Ben and Collin are playing. This is traditional Ben and Collin ball. Collin is just lifting. Ben's moved up to put pressure on it here. Here is where the error arises, because this is not the strategy that they've been using the entire game. I'm going to show you now what they've been using before in the game, and then we'll come back here and show you what Collin tries to do in this rally. This rally earlier in the match won by Ben and Collin shows you the strategy that was working, which is a traditional Ben and Collin strategy of grinding with one wrinkle. Ben was attacking Tyler down the line off at the bounce on the two-handed backhand. Rather than sticking to the strategy, what Collin's going to do off this ball here, which is a low ball, is he's going to try and attack the middle. This is not their strategy, this type of attack by Collin. And this leads us to our first tip in terms of closing out games, is don't try something different when you're up 10x. So when you're up 10-8 like they are here, stick to the plan. Whatever got you to 10, you're going to do that again and do that again until you determine that it doesn't work, and then maybe you change it. In this game, it had been working, so varying the shot did make sense. Even though that attack didn't work, all isn't lost for Ben and Collin. They're still serving up 10-8-2 Beautiful thing about this game breakdown is the very next rally gives us the other tip that we want to talk about here. So again, Ben serving at 10-8-2. We're going to see the traditional third shot drive, fifth shot drop that's become very common here. So you're going to see a drive by Ben here. And then this shot here is pretty lackadaisical, right? It's, you know, he's kind of reaching behind him. Probably should have been taken by Collin, although I know Ben and Collin, you know, with those players, Ben takes a lot of these. The problem is this, right? It's just kind of a poor effort on a third. Doesn't even hit the top of the nets around here. So what you have there is you have your attempt to close out the rally, or close out the match, I should say, ending with a ball in the net. And that is the second tip that I want you to take away from this lesson, which is that when you are closing out a game, the one thing you don't want to do is have your third, fifth, seventh, ninth land in the net. If your opponents beat you off of high balls, that's fine. Much better than hitting the net. Remember, when you're up 10-8 or 10 anything, your opponents have all of the pressure on them not to make a mistake. The only way that you relieve them from that pressure is when your shot hits the net. If you want to close out more games, make sure that you stick to the plan and clear the net when you're up at game point. And you'll avoid more results like this, that dreaded comeback from a 10-up victory. I'll put a link here to that free strategy guide that I mentioned earlier in this video, and I'll see you inside our next lesson. Be well.